Hi, I'm Simon K. Jones and you're listening to the latest chapter of Tales from the Triverse, my ongoing science fiction fantasy detective serial. And the story so far, former detective Lola Stiles is very excited to be working on a new case investigating some grisly murders happening in the city-state of Vaen'ka. This is the Vaen'ka, Part 3. Vaen'ka, 3203. Early Verdant. Lola was angry. It was a relatively novel emotional experience for her, but events had conspired to leave her with no other choice, and she didn't like it. Anger felt like a disease, like she'd caught it from someone else, like it was something to be ashamed of and it was her responsibility to recover as quickly as possible. Yet the anger remained, which made her all the more angry. The rain continued to pour. She sipped through a wooden straw at the drink, which had been served in a hollowed-out fruit of some sort. The venue was an outdoor kiosk on one of Lairn's many market streets, not unlike a noodle bar in Chinatown back in London. It was dry beneath the rain sails, but the hammering sound was always there day and night. Most of the time it faded into the background, until she tried to sleep. At all turns, she tried to do the right thing, be a good student, study hard, be a good citizen, voted the first year she was allowed, served society, joined the police, rise up the ranks, passed the detective exam, make a difference, got assigned to the specialist dimensional command, always be ambitious, became the Met's liaison to Brulia. She'd done everything right, got ahead in a world designed for men, where small, young, blonde-haired women didn't tend to get taken seriously. And where had it left her? On a wanted list, exiled from her own world, on the run across a continent she did not know, now accompanied by rebels, outcasts, and escapees. Lola Stiles, the goody two-shoes who never got into trouble, the teacher's pet who spent her teenage years studying instead of partying, now a fugitive. Somewhere along the line her life had gone wrong. Meanwhile the bad guys were happily getting on with whatever it was they were getting on with. Clark and the others were most likely in prison back home, and the Triverse hadn't even noticed anything was wrong. She sighed, took another sip. Her contact should have been there already, and it was making her nervous. Lola's original pitch to Christian, Darrella and the others was to have a spell cast that would alter Lola's appearance, so that she could infiltrate the local city guard garrison, talk to the officers and examine evidence of any similar murders. It was soon pointed out that they didn't have a visualist on the team, otherwise they'd be in disguise all the time, especially with Lola and Darrella on wanted posters 200 miles from Brulia. It was a fair point. Like Azra had instead suggested, they call up one of their informants in the city guard and arrange a meet, which, in retrospect, did seem like the simpler option. Like Azra was good at unpicking a plan until it reached its least complicated version. Arriving in Lairn, working the case, was the first time Lola had felt properly useful since leaving Brulia, possibly since before even then, factoring in the difficulties of working the Brulian office and the sour taste that the railroad case had left. If Palinor was a fantasy, it was no longer hers. A man sat at the stool next to her and ordered a bowl of something local that Lola didn't quite catch. The meal arrived a minute later, the broth steaming. It smelled delicious. Might as well give the secure greeting a try. What's it taste like? Tastes like chicken, he said, a little stiffly. The correct answer. How about you? I already ate, she said. Left me a little bloated. She'd objected to that one, but the others had found it amusing. Okay, the man said, his accent thick and reminding her a little of Portuguese. I don't have much time. I need to start my shift soon. What do you need? I'm investigating several murders, a single mass killing, bodies piled high in the back room, dismembered. Signs of a fight, but pretty one-sided. She pulled a small scrap of paper from her pocket and placed it at the counter. That's the address. He leaned over and made a vaguely disgruntled sound. It's not been reported. Don't know the address. It won't be reported, she said. Private business, you know? Ah, he nodded. I got you. The setup sound familiar at all? Familiar. He was devouring his food like a starving man. Right, any other reports of violent killings? No obvious weapons or motivation? Entire households? No survivors? Oh, yeah. He mopped at his mouth with a napkin. Started about 6 months back. Nothing major to start with. Homeless people, ripped up. Nobody cared. Then a couple of months ago it escalated. Like you say, entire families taken out, or not even families, sometimes just whoever happened to be in a building at the wrong time. He shivered visibly, took a breath. Nothing obvious connecting the victims. Sometimes it'd be a shop, open late, and it was whoever happened to be in the place. As she thought, it had been happening for a while. Similar style of killings, violent, dismemberment, then everything put into a big pile. That's the one. I never seen anything like it. Nothing. Thought it was a gang thing, maybe, but that didn't seem right. Or perhaps some psycho, but there's no way someone on their own could do it. Nobody normal, anyway. An animal? I don't know. Lola had gone down a similar trail of thought. You said there were no connections at all. Totally random. There were people from all walks of life, all levels of society, at least. That's what we thought at first. At first? Yeah. He took his time, working through his food. I get hungry when I think about this shit, he said, as if offering an explanation. Here's the thing. The victims were always a mix, male, female, human, Vaen'ka, some other minorities. No Koth. Took us a while to realise that there were always humans involved. Sometimes Vaen'ka as well, but never just Vaen'ka. When we spotted that, we looked a little closer. It wasn't just that there was always at least one human. They were always wielders, magic capable. You think magic wielders are being targeted? Perhaps. He waved a hand, dismissively. It's just a theory. Could as easily be something else. There's a lot of wielders in Lern, even compared to other city-states. The climate means there's always work to be had. What about the locations of the murders? Anything there? Take a look yourself. He pulled a crumpled map from a pocket and slid it across to her. Keep it. Look at it once I'm gone. One other thing. I heard someone else was asking around about this. Don't know who, but it's catching people's attention. That's all I've got. He stood and walked away without saying another word. The chef hurried over. You with him? You paying? Lola sighed and slid some money across the counter. The map was sketchy at best. She'd expected a professional map of the city marked with the attack locations. Instead, it was very much pursuing a back-of-a-napkin vibe, hand-drawn with key landmarks depicted in a cartoon style, circles marking the murders. Here, Pilpo said, unfolding a somewhat more convincing tourist map and spreading it out on the table in their room. I'm surprised tourist maps are a thing here, Lola said. Why? I don't imagine tourism being a big industry on Palinor. Pilpo looked mockingly through her eyebrows at Lola. There are always rich people happy and able to travel the world, even here. Fair enough. Lola had already moved on, rotating the sketch to match the orientation of the larger map. She grabbed a pencil from her bag and started copying the locations across. And here's R1, she said, circling the building where Gallon and the other bodies had been found. Seems pretty random, Pilpo said, leaning on her elbows. How about we go to bed and think about it in the morning? It's barely past late afternoon. I know. Lola stared at the circles on the map, spread over an area that must have been about 2 to 3 kilometres across. They're clustered into this district of the city. Big area, but very much not straying anywhere further afield. Sure, Pilpo said, sliding around behind where Lola was sat and wrapping her legs around her. Maybe we can figure something out from their positions. Maybe I can figure something out from our positions. Pilpo kissed her neck, making Lola shiver involuntarily. With the pencil, Lola started drawing lines between the crime scenes. There was no discernible shape at first. Then a clear circle began to form. Rough, for sure, but there was an outer edge to the attacks, if one imagined a central pivot in each of the locations on a spoke of a wheel. Pilpo's hands crept around her waist. Come on. Look, Lola said. tapping the map with the pencil. It's a circle. It could mean that whoever's doing this, whether it's a person or people or a gang or whatever, it could mean they're striking out from somewhere in the middle, never going further, always under cover of darkness, knowing they have enough time to get back. Back where? Pilpo lifted Lola's shirt, and her hands stroked her skin, the Ainfar's fingers gentle and enticing, walking up her stomach like tiny feet. She drew more lines through the centre of the circle and pointed. Maybe there, or thereabouts. We need to look in that area. It was a little tenuous, to be sure, and wouldn't have been as obvious without having the location of Gallen's murder. We need to go and have a look around. What now? It'll be dark soon. Yes, now, this could be it. Lola could taste it, feel the impending success, an accomplishment that would justify her place on the team, earn her keep, stop her from being a hanger-on. No, Pilpo said. It'll be nearly dark by the time we get there, and hunting for a crazed serial killer at night isn't my idea of fun. She shifted, moving gracefully around Lola, until she was sat on her lap, her legs now wrapped around to her back. We'll get the others together in the morning. More feet on the ground will speed things up, and be safer. So close to an answer, but Pilpo was right. Part of Lola wanted the discovery to be all hers. Bringing in the others felt like a dissolution of that. It would no longer be Lola's achievement. Pilpo pulled at her own shirt, lifting it over her head and off her arms, discarding it to the floor. Her body seemed almost to glow, the colour of freshly cut grass. Lola knew she should say no, that it was unfair to Darla, but that particular threshold was long busted. She put down the pencil and shifted her attention to the beautiful non-human, ears pointed at the tips, her chest mottled with flecks of purple just below the surface. They had a plan. They would find whomever was responsible, and Christian could exact his justice. Lola would prove her worth. The morning would change everything. Leaning forward, she allowed herself to be enveloped in the warm embrace of another. The morning could wait. Thanks for listening. You can find out a lot more, leave comments and all of that good stuff over on the newsletter at simonkjones.substack.com, and I publish a new chapter of the story every week, so see you back here next week. Thanks for listening.